What's going on, everyone? Juan here with the Mana Dorks. Today we have a deck tech video for Magus Lucea Kane. Magus is a secondary commander found in the Tyrannid Swarm Precon that was released with the addition of the Warhammer 40k Precon decks. And let me tell you something, she is awesome. We currently have a Precon Commander League running in our local playgroup, and this is the deck that I decided to play. The rules? Very simple. You must maintain 90 of the deck's original cards at all times, and if you were to change the commander, it must be a commander that is included in the deck's original list. In our league, at this time, I am currently 12-0 playing Magus. Since we only have the option of changing out 10 cards from the original list, I knew I needed to make the right changes to try and get the most out of the swaps I made in order to make this deck as efficient and as good as it can be. In this video, we will talk about the 10 upgrades that I've done to the deck that you can do as well, and why I chose these specific cards and how these changes made this deck even more of a powerhouse. So if you just bought this deck and you really want to take it from store-bought to power, that's exactly what we are going to do, with the limit of 10 upgrades, of course. With the face commander of this Precon being the Swarm Lord, Magus provides us much better value in terms of being our commander. Magus is able to copy our X spells as well as pump our creatures by giving them +1/+1 counters each combat. There are several X spells that come with this deck, all of them being creatures. Well, at least the majority of them. So when Magus copies a creature spell, you create a token of that creature that has the same value of X as the original spell you cast. Thanks, game rules. This is going to allow us to build a board state of nasty, strong creatures to wipe away our opponents with. The amount of value that Magus provides to our board state is purely phenomenal. So let's talk about some of the deck's weaknesses. Right off the bat, the deck itself lacks instant speed spot removal. There's actually no form of instant speed removal in the deck's original list. We have cards like Star Storm and Aetherize, however these are situational and cannot effectively remove a problem that may arise when the time comes. Second problem, there are not enough X spells in the deck. The deck comes with 12 X spells, 11 of them being creatures. With a focus on getting as much value out of our X spells as we can, this number seems to be just a little low. Problem number 3. Commander protection. Magus is a value engine on top of a value engine. This deck needs her to stick around to function efficiently. While you can still play your other cards and make them work, removing Magus will definitely slow down our game plan. So, with having addressed these 3 problems in the deck, and after some playtesting prior to the start of League, I decided to try and tackle them. While just changing out 10 cards would be nowhere near enough to fix these problems, I knew that I wanted to focus on what the deck did and make it do it better. So without further ado, let's get into the cuts I made and talk about why they did not make the list. Starting with the creatures. Acolyte Hybrid. While it does destroy an artifact when attacking, this does allow our opponent to draw. While sometimes this is not such a bad thing, this creature is only a 2/2 for 3 mana, and it does not have haste, so it can't really be of good use until the next turn. Gryson, Starn Kelomorph. While this will be a really great commander on its own, it just doesn't have any synergies with our deck. We're not focusing on dealing only 1 damage, but rather as much damage as we freaking can. So this card did not make the list. Death Leaper, Terror Weapon. It has flash, it has haste, it has creatures that enter the battlefield this turn have double strike. Well, sorry to burst your bubble, Mr. Terror Weapon. There aren't many creatures in this deck that have haste, so this ability is gone. Genestealer Locust. 4 mana for a 3/3. That doesn't really do much in terms of value for the deck. There are definitely better options, so you gotta go too. Haruspects. Whenever a creature dies, this card gets a +1/+1 counter. That is a little slow, and the mana ability doesn't do much for us in terms of ramp, especially considering it's on the same curve as our commander, so it's gotta come out. Goliath Truck. I'm not trying to play with trucks here. This is a big damn creature deck. My big and scary creatures won't fit in a truck. That's crazy. You're out of here. Icon of Ancestry. While this is a good card, and we do play a lot of creatures, our creatures are already going to be strong. Pumping them by 1+1 is not really making a huge difference. Also, pumping 3 mana into it to maybe find a creature just isn't that great. We can pump that 3 mana instead to a creature we're going to cast with a mana value of X, making it a lot stronger, like the Brute Lord. Herald's Horn. While this could provide us with a little extra draw power and reduces the costs of our creatures by 1, it doesn't really do anything outside of that. This deck already has plenty of ramp in other forms, so Herald, you're out of here. Oh, and we also took out Opal Palace, because, well, just because. Alright, so let's talk about what we're actually going to put in the deck. So now that we've gotten rid of all the stuff not making the deck any better, how are we going to make the deck do what it wants to do mo better? Let's turn our focus to adding more X creature spells. So that's where we'll start. Hydroid Krasis. When you cast Krasis, assuming you dump a lot of mana into him, you're going to get a nice little thing called card draw in the amount of half the mana you paid into it rounded down. You'll also gain half X life rounded down. While that's all good and everything, this Hydroid ain't playing around. Not only does it have flying, but it also has trample. This is going to be a big evasive damage dealer. And since it has trample, your opponents are literally going to be crying when this thing tramples over their little flying chump blockers. Oh, and did I forget? Your commander will make 2 of these bad boys? Oh, the tears. Tears of joy. From you, of course. What, do you think I was trying to be nice to my opponents? Not today. Shivian Devastator. X and 1 red for a flyer with haste. Dropping this creature in the late game, and your commander making a copy of it, that's 2 big, very strong flyers with haste that will definitely devastate your opponent's life totals. Vornaclex, Monstrous Raider. A trampler with haste that doubles the amount of counters we get to put on our creatures who already enter the battlefield with a monstrous amount of them anyway. This is going to make our army even more of a force to be reckoned with. Oh, and it stops your opponents from getting their counters. Count me in. Not your opponents though, they don't count. So these are the only creatures that I've decided to put in, and while there was a lot to choose from, I only have space for 10 cards. So my options are definitely limited. I'm trying to get the most use out of my swaps as I can. So let's move on to spells and kick it off with Blue Sun's Twilight. Gain control of target creature. Nuff said. I'm going to be taking my opponent's creatures, their commanders, and if I dump enough mana into it, this is going to make copies of their creatures. Not only will they be facing down my army of Tyranids, they also got to play against their own creatures too. That's a bad day for them. But using this card to take strategic pieces off of your opponent's board can literally be the key to disrupting their strategy, especially in a Precon Commander League where your key pieces are even more important. Since this deck lacks some instant speed removal, we decided to add in Beast Within and Cyclonic Rift. Overload a Cyclonic Rift when your board state is strong, watch your opponent's emotions overload when they're smacked right in the face by your Tyranids. The Rift also helps in situations where you need to remove a potential threat from your opponent's board. While I really only ever want to overload the Cyclonic Rift, sometimes you just gotta do what you gotta do. The last card in this section is Unbound Flourishing. This card is going to make our X spells a hell of a lot more scary. Double the cost of X, double the cost of our X spells. Not only is our commander doubling our X spells, but double the cost of X in our spells? Hot damn. Alright, let's get to the last and probably 3 most important cards that I put into this deck. One of the biggest problems with Precon Commander decks is they do not have anything specifically to close out a game. So this last section is going to be our finishers, our win condition. This deck needs a good way to end the game once you have your creatures on board, and these cards will help accomplish this. They will definitely bring the salt to your opponents. Finale of Devastation. X and 2 green. Find any creature in your library, put it on the battlefield. This is helpful when you already have a powerful army, but need to find something that can help them get through, like maybe a Winged Hive Tyrant, giving all your creatures with counters flying. or like Old One-Eye when you need some trample in your life. Copying this card with your commander's effect will give you even more value, not to mention pumping enough into the spell, powering up your creatures, and going in for the win. Dumping 12 mana into this card, search for the Old One-Eye, giving your creatures trample, and then your creatures get +20/+20 thanks to your commander copying the spell. Good game, boys. GGB. Overwhelming Stampede. Rhino! Make every creature on board just as strong as your strongest creature and give them trample? It's over. Triumph of the Hordes. Well, we've gone and done it now. Trampling army of infectious big creatures. That, my friends, is how I'm currently 12-0. I really hope you enjoyed this deck tech on Magus Lucea Kane. If you want to see more gameplay of just how explosive this deck can be, I have a video up on our channel. The link will be in the description. We still have a few more weeks of League before it's over. First place gets a set booster box of March of the Machines, second and third split one. I definitely plan to continue my undefeated record using this beast of a deck, so stick around to stay updated on the League, as well as keep an eye out for other videos we will be posting in the future. Thanks for watching. Oh, and don't be too salty to subscribe.